guys? How's everyone? Okay, I'm just getting set here. I cannot see you guys, and I hate it. But, okay, so I hope this is not pure chaos, but they asked me if I wanted to give out some Chick-fil-A gift cards, and I was like, yes, I definitely want to be the girl that gives out the Chick-fil-A gift cards. So I'm gonna kind of point you out and just like be honest, but I'm gonna give 2 of these if you are, one is it for if you're in the front row, so you're front row eligible, you guys up here. Another one, if you did notes, if you have notes from one of the sessions, you got to show. Okay, we'll get there. And then the last one, I'm gonna find someone in the back row because y'all need Jesus. Okay, so front row, who wants one from the front row? Green shirt. I knew this was gonna happen, and oh my God, I'm scared. Wait. Let me see. Okay. There we go. Okay, sit down. I already gave it out to the notes person. Y'all are so great, though. Go ahead and sit down. I got one more. Riley, can you help me? It's too late. Riley, can you give this to someone in the back row who looks like they've never taken notes in their life? I don't have one anymore, so like, oh, wow. Kira, are you here? I have no idea who I just gave those to. So if you did get a gift card, tell your leader and make sure your leader tells the staff so the staff knows who got that because of important staff stuff they need to know. Anyways, my name is Mary Solis. Like they said, I'm the online campus pastor here at Hope. Yeah, pretty fresh, pretty new. Super excited to be here with you guys today. Couple of things about me. My husband, Rolando Solis, he is the best. He's here tonight, and he's an incredible husband. But more importantly, well, maybe not more importantly, we have a precious baby girl. She is so sweet, like best baby girl you could ever have. Can we? She's precious. She's literally perfect. I didn't know I was gonna get that kind of reaction, but I'm so glad because she's my girl. Her name's Luna, Looney Tune, Looney baby girl. We love her. Okay, we'll put it up because that's gonna distract people the whole time because she's so cute. But a little thing about Luna is I wanna take her everywhere with me. She is so cute, so precious, best dog ever. I regularly, like on the regular, I'm like, she is literally the perfect dog. Like I'd be talking to my husband and be like, why do we have the perfect dog? Like how did we get so blessed, so lucky to have the best dog ever? But when we take her outside of the house, basically ever, she gets really anxious. Like an environment like this would be extremely overwhelming for her. And when she gets anxious, she poops. Like that's like a thing. Like I personally, I don't think you need to admit this right now, but I kind of do want to know if like people agree with me on this. I had a fundamental belief that when people are anxious, they poop. Like, is that like not a thing? Right, okay, good. So there's, some people are like, what are you talking about? I thought that it was like a well-known, understood fact that when you're anxious, that's like kind of a side effect sometimes. So Luna, we came to the conclusion she was anxious because whenever you get a puppy, you have to get the right size kennel. They tell you if the kennel is too big, the dog will poop in the kennel and it won't have to like touch it, right? It's like, oh, it's in the corner, they won't do it. They're too civilized for that, right? Well, I would get home and literally every day, Looney Tune was crazy in her kennel, and there would be like poop in the kennel, poop on her fur, poop everywhere. I never thought I'd say poop this many times on stage, but here we are. And so I would have to take it out, I'd have to give her a bath, I'd have to clean the kennel and everything. And so I was like, well, maybe she's just like anxious. Like maybe she's like a human, and she's anxious, so she's pooping. So I took her to the vet, and I was like, hey, totally prepared to like walk away with some supplements. Like, give my poor girl a couple of supplements so that she can sleep in her kennel and not be freaking out and poop all over herself all the time. And so I went in and I told the guy, hey, like she's anxious, so she's pooping, and we need something for her anxiety. And he straight up, you guys, was like, that's not a thing. Can you, like, what? Like, that's not a thing? Like, I had this fundamental idea already, and now you're telling me that's, like, not a real thing? And obviously I'm passionate about it because literally I will take her out, and we've gone to the vet, and we've gone to the groomer, and we go really anywhere. I took her to the Frisco West campus during 2020. No one was there. Guess what? She pooped. She was freaking out. She literally ran into a glass panel, okay? Like, legitimately so hard. I was, like, so sad for her. But she ran into a glass panel. I'm like, she's anxious. Literally every time since that's happened, I want to, like, take a video of it and be like, hey, vet, listen up, buddy. Here's documentation. Dogs are anxious and they poop. That's not a myth, okay? But I knew that she had anxiety because I looked at her and I knew what that was like. I know what it's like when your environment becomes a casualty. Because when you're so anxious and you're so overwhelmed and you have a thought that is so loud in your head, everything around you becomes background noise. Like, it doesn't matter. Okay, you guys know what I'm talking about. Have you been driving somewhere and you drive there, but like you don't remember driving there? Like you just show up? I'm like, wait, how did I get here? Or maybe you're like me and you have like a full-on conversation with someone and you totally win, like elegant conversation, right? But they're like not there. And you're staring into space. This literally happened today to me. My husband, you can ask him after this over there. He was like, why are you staring at me? And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he was like, you were just staring at me. And I was like, oh, I didn't even know. Like he was trying to talk to me and I was like, I can't hear you, because I can only hear me. and that's what it does when we're anxious. Like the thoughts in our head get so loud. I remember I had my first panic attack when I was in 7th grade. And some of you guys in here, you know what I'm talking about. You're like, I'm unfortunately very familiar. Well, I was in 7th grade, and I was in the front, my mom's front seat, about to go into my middle school, and I don't remember really any details. Like, I don't remember what happened or why. All I knew was I didn't know what I wanted to do. I only knew what I did not want to do. And that is the only thing that was in my mind at that time. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I only knew what I didn't want to do. And I think that's where we find Elijah, the prophet, in 1 Kings 19. That's where we're going to be going today. So if you're taking notes, which I encourage that, obviously, the title of this, I just came up, I decided, I landed on one. Just because it's loud doesn't mean it's true. Just because it's loud doesn't mean it's true. So a little bit of background about Elijah. Elijah is a prophet, and I'm not talking about like cool youth pastor, funny little Mike Elijah. I'm not talking about that guy with the Crocs. I'm not talking about like those people you see on TikTok or YouTube, and they're like, thus saith the Lord. Like not them necessarily, but I'm talking about a different type of prophet. So backing up a little bit, right now, literally any one of you in this room, if you've accepted Jesus, you can hear the voice of God. Maybe some of you guys, you got notes and you're like, you underlined something like 50 times because you're like, God's speaking that to me. So like any time along this weekend or maybe when you pray at home or maybe on a Wednesday night, like the God, creator of the universe, can speak to you. Thanks to Jesus. When Jesus came, he lived, died, resurrected, his Holy Spirit's in you, any one of you. Guess what? That wasn't always the case. Like, we have such an honor to get to access the God of the universe. We can hear his voice. But back then, before Jesus, believe it, there was a time before Jesus when that wasn't the case. And that's Elijah's time. And these prophets, they were God's voice to the nation of Israel, God's people. And usually, the message was something like this, like, please stop serving and following and worshiping this not real, not true God. Like, that's usually what it is. They're like, hey, instead, worship, serve, follow, obey Yahweh God, the God that created the universe, the God of Israel. So that's like, in a nutshell, like what they did. Well, Ahab and Jezebel, have you guys heard of Jezebeth? Okay, a couple of you? All right, I thought more, but okay. Jezebeth, funny TikToker, right? She's like a funny spinoff of Jezebel. Jezebel is not funny. Like, she is straight up like evil. Worst of the worst, like kills people, okay? I'm not talking like, oh, she's mean. I'm like, she kills people. Like, you're more than mean when you kill people, okay? And so Jezebel and Ahab, they were ruling Israel, God's people. And they were turning Israel away from the one true God. And because of that sin, there was a drought in Israel. And so Elijah, being the voice to God's people, went to them and was like, hey, drought time, like it's not gonna rain. But they were like, how dare you say that? I blame you for everything that's happening, even though it was like literally not his fault, it was their fault because of what they were doing. But hey, they're gonna blame Elijah. And so Elijah takes off. He takes off, but he doesn't take off like running, like he's not running and hiding, but he is in hiding for like 3 years. Y'all, sometimes like waiting a week, y'all know, like waiting a week is hard. 3 years, try 3 years. And this guy during that time, he is not thriving. Like this is not like, Jireh, you are enough. Like he wasn't like, yeah, hitting it, you know what I mean? Like he wasn't like, yeah, pepping his step after a Wednesday night worship, awesome. Like he was like surviving. Like by a pond, literally God was sending ravens to bring him food. I don't think you have ever been in a situation like that, but that's surviving. For 3 years, at one point, there's a widow that's like taking care of him. So for all this time, he is learning to trust in, rely, and obey and hear God's voice. And so he's trusting him, but he's gonna be hiding in a little bit, but when he hides next time, it's a different scenario. And so after 3 years, God comes to Elijah, like, it's time. It's time. Have you ever been like waiting for something for a long time? Like preparing for something, maybe a test, or maybe you like really wanted to ask that girl out and you were like waiting to see if she really liked you, and it was just like the moment, right? So Elijah's about to have his big moment. God comes and says, hey, it's time. It's time. And so he goes to Ahab, that guy that's trying to kill him. So just tracking with me, lots of story here. Ahab, Jezebel, bad. Elijah, good. Elijah going to the bad people. So he's going there, and this big moment, long story short, he conquers these false prophets of this God that's not true that Israel was serving. And really easily and really quickly, he like demonstrates like God is real. Like, have you ever had the moments maybe like last night after service and you're like, God is real? Like, or you had that moment on a Wednesday night, maybe you're like, you know, all this time I've been saying I'm a Christian, but now I know like God is real. So he had a moment like that, like a really big, awesome, obvious moment like that where he's like, God is real. So he was so sure after that when he went to Jezebel to let her know that she was gonna be like, duh, the obvious thing is we need to serve God. Not what happened. Have you ever had things not turn out how you expected? Okay, so sorry, babe. I'm sharing the story. I'm doing it. So whenever I was dating Rolly, some of you guys know the story, you know, you have these expectations, right? You're like, this date's gonna go good, right? So I've been like talking to him for like a month, not long, only a couple dates in, but I was like, I need to be his girlfriend. Like I was like, for sure, it's time. Well, he texted me this cute thing, and this was like when I was like, oh, he's for sure gonna ask me to be his girlfriend. Because I was like, I want it to be official, y'all. Like sometimes these guys, they like pull you along for a long time, and it's never official, and then they break it off, and you're like, what? And they're like, what? It was not even a thing. And you're like, what? I thought this was a thing. So I wanted it to be official. So he sends me this picture, and we were gonna have a movie night, right? And he had sent me this picture like you see on Pinterest, and it's like a cute like setup, like fortress. And he was like, this is gonna be our movie night tonight. And I was like, oh, he's gonna ask me to be his girlfriend. Like it's happening. Also, by the way, never had a boyfriend my whole life till him, and I was 24 years old. Never held a hand, none of that. Yeah, so very cute story. Yes, my crew over there. By the way, girls, that's not weird. That's cool. So anyways, for 24 years, anyways, so it was like time. I was waiting 24 years, you guys. I was like, yes, it's time. I was done waiting, it's time. So he texted me that, and I was like, okay. And then I get there, I kid you not. Boys, take notes. But not to do, what not to, sorry. So sorry, babe, what not to do. And let's just say there wasn't a fort. There wasn't nothing. He was like, oh yeah, I couldn't figure it out or whatever. So not only did he not have the fort, but he also didn't have he wasn't asking me out that day. Like it was just like a hangout. I was like, what? Have you ever been like disappointed with the way things turned out? So Elijah shows up to Jezebel, totally, y'all are like, you just dropped that story on us and then you're gonna keep moving on? Yes. So he goes to Jezebel fully sure. She's gonna be like, okay, it's so obvious. God is the one true God. God is real. We're gonna serve him, right? No. He gets there and Jezebel's straight up like, I don't care. I'm gonna kill you in 24 hours. Straight up. I told you she was evil. So it didn't matter to her, this big God moment, because she was like, I don't care, I'm gonna kill you in 24 hours. For Elijah, the voice of Jezebel became the loudest voice. Have you ever had a voice in your head? And I'm not talking like weird, like voice in your head. I'm talking about like the things you say to yourself that you've believed people have said about you, that you're not enough, that you're addicted so you'll never get over that thing, that everyone does it so you should do it. Like those, you know them. Like I don't even have to list them. You know what you believe about yourself, and so often they come from people around us. But in that moment, Elijah decides to turn the volume down on the last 3 years of trusting in, relying, listening to God. He says, I'm gonna listen to Jezebel now. And that lie gets so loud in his head, and he takes off running literally the opposite, straight opposite direction. He is getting out of here. For 3 years, he was in hiding. Now he's in hiding again, but it's different. It's different. It can be different because it's about the voice in your head that you're amplifying, that you're choosing to believe. And he believed that what Jezebel said was true. Even though God had a plan and a purpose for his life, he believed what Jezebel said about him over what God said about him. And that sent him anxiously running for the hills. And it's easy to like look at that and be like, oh, no, like that's real. Like that's real. Like you guys know what that's like in here, to have something so heavy on your mind and in your head that you can't shake it. It's the only thing you can hear. And he takes off running and he passes out. That tired. Some of you guys are like, I'm passing out right now. I'm that tired. But he takes off and he runs. He falls asleep. And 1 Kings 19, verse 4, this is where we catch him. But he himself went a day's journey into the wilderness and came and sat down under a broom tree. And he asked that he might die. So like, he's not like tired. He's like done. Like I know statistically in this room right now that some of you guys in here know what this is like. He is begging God to end it. So this isn't like, oh, cute, like he's tired. Lord, please stop, I'm done. No, he wants to die. He wants to die. And he says, it's enough now, Lord. Take my life away. It's enough. Have you been there where it's just enough? Like you've thought you've overcame it. You kept going. You kept doing what was right. You checked all the boxes. You were a good girl. You did the things you were supposed to do. You went to church every Wednesday night. You put those blockers on your phone so you wouldn't look at those websites. But still, it's not enough, and you're done. This is where he is. So he falls asleep, takes a nap, wakes up. There's an angel there, and the angel is like, hey, here's a hot meal. Nice, cool, that's great. You know, it's nice to have a nap and a hot meal, but sometimes you can be so hungry that that's not enough. Like sometimes I take a pizza and I'm like, hey, I'd like a piece of this pizza. Then I eat the whole pizza. So like one slice isn't enough, you know what I mean? Like after this, some of you guys are gonna go home and you're gonna be like, hey, I'm gonna go take one nap. Sometimes one nap, leaders, you know what I'm talking about, one nap isn't enough. Like you need multiple naps. Have you ever come back from camp? If you didn't go to camp, you should go to camp. Definitely sign up for camp. But anytime I got home from camp, I was like, hey, I'm gonna go take a quick nap. I think I slept like 8 hours. I was like, hello. And then I ate a snack, and then I slept like another 8 hours. You know, like I'm that tired. So when Elijah wakes up here, after having this big God moment ending up being disappointing for him, he takes off, passes out, wakes up, has a snack. You think it's different? It's not. He's no different. Nothing here tells him that that moment made him different. He wakes up, and he's the same. But he changes his course. And instead of heading the opposite direction, he turns to the mountain of God. You can change your course and not change your mind. And there are lies that some of you guys are believing in here, especially being around like your peers, like your friends, like, gosh, It's amplified so much more during those times. Some of you leaders in here, it's amplified so much you feel like you're not a good leader, you're not a good Christian, or you're not able to do this. And it's so loud. But we see Elijah here, and nothing's different about his mind. Nothing, but he changes his course. You can change your course and not change your mind. Elijah woke up and nothing was different. We say, I won't do it until I believe it, right? Like, I believe it, then I'll go do it. I say, do it until you do. Do it until you do. I'm not talking about like changing your mind. I'm not talking about like putting the blockers on the website or not hanging out with that group of people or not texting that girl or that guy. Like, that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about surrender. I'm talking about faith. You know, this is not like a, hey, I'm gonna work myself into this. Like, I'm gonna make this happen. This is like, God, I trust you. You know the widow in the Bible who had a penny, and that's all she had, and she gave it. We see a boy in Scripture, and he has a loaf and fish, and that's all he had. And he gave it, and he fed Jesus fed the multitudes with that. Like, you don't have to have much. You don't have to have anything that you don't have right now. Because what the angel tells him before he goes is go in the strength you have. Go in the strength you have. Stop putting unrealistic, unnecessary expectations on what you should do or where you should be. Some of you guys are being burdened. You are sinking because people have told you where you should be at, what you should be doing, how far you should have come. Stop measuring yourself to see if you have what it takes. You don't. Just go and keep going. Keep moving towards him no matter how loud the voice in your head is. You don't have to change your mind. You surrender it. So he takes 40 days, 40 nights, and he's heading to the mountain of God. And he gets there, and he lodges in a cave. And I'm picturing him like maybe how you guys are going to be like Sunday night after church, like curled up in a ball, like so tired, so exhausted. 1 Kings 19, verse 9. There he came to a cave and lodged in it. And behold, the word of the Lord came to him. And he said to him, what are you doing here, Elijah? He said, I have been very jealous for the Lord, the God of hosts. For the people of Israel have forsaken your covenant, thrown down your altars, and killed your prophets with the sword, and I, even I only, am left. They seek to take my life. And right here is a really big moment. Have you ever believed something in your mind so much, but you never told anybody? But when you told them, it was like, it's real, you know? I remember for me, I struggled so much with my worth and my value, and I really, really, really hated myself. And I knew that that was so, so real for me because I said it out loud. I would literally look in the mirror and say, I hate you. Like, before I said it out loud, it got to just like live there, right? But when I said it out loud, it was like, oh no, I believe that. And what happens right here, this exchange, Elijah's heart, the lie, is exposed. And this is what he's saying. He's saying, I failed. Have you heard that one before? I'm done. I'm alone. I failed. I'm done. I'm alone. Elijah is finished. And just like a side note, like, that's not even what happened. Like, he had this big victory, but he perceived it in an entirely different way. He was not alone. Actually, the other prophets were the ones that were defeated, but he feels defeated because things didn't turn out the way he planned? What? Like, no, that's not what was happening, but that's what he believed because that was the lie. Just because it's loud doesn't mean it's true. Just because it's loud doesn't mean it's true. Verse 11, he says, go out and stand on the mountain before the Lord. Behold, the Lord passed by, and a great and strong wind tore the mountains, broke it in pieces and rocks before the Lord, but the Lord was not in the wind. And after the wind, an earthquake, but the Lord was not in the earthquake. And after the earthquake, a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. He wasn't in this big stuff, this loud stuff. And not that all big, loud things are bad. Like, worship is awesome, right? Like, the loudness, sometimes a message, me yelling up here, like, what is this girl? Like, sometimes loud it's not bad, but God isn't always in the loud things just because they're loud. Because here it says, and after the fire, the sound of a low whisper, a gentle whisper. Sometimes we're so caught up in that loud stuff that we're never quiet enough to hear the truth, to hear God's voice in our heads. So maybe you're one of two people in this room. Maybe you're in this room and you're like, it is so loud, I had no idea that there was a whisper. I had no idea there was another voice telling me I had value, I had worth, I could be different, I had a purpose. Some of you guys, you've heard it. I have a purpose. I have a mission. I have a call. Maybe you've heard it this weekend. Like, that's the whisper. That's the whisper. That's the truth. Not always the loud, big stuff. And we see it here. So you might be like that, or maybe you're someone who's gone to church for a while, and you've been here, and you've heard that whisper. It's carried you through. But right now, if you could turn that lie down, you would. But you can't. Has anyone ever told you something true about yourself and you couldn't believe it? All the time, telling me true things. Maybe it's your leader, maybe it's your parent, maybe it's your teacher, and they're saying they believe in you. They're saying you have a purpose. They're saying you have a call. They're saying all these things about you that you can do, that you can be. And you're like, yeah. But inside you're like, me? Like, that's how it can be with the voice in your head. And when I realized there was a different voice, it changed. Not only changed, it saved my life. I was born and my parents were divorced, and a series of events, long story short, I believed a lie that if I couldn't be perfect, I didn't want to be. Like, I truly, truly believed that if I wasn't perfect, good, met every expectation every person had of me, made no mistakes, then I wasn't worthy. Not worthy like, oh, I'm not worthy, like I don't want to exist. Like, I shouldn't even be here if people can't love me. Like, that's where I was. And that lie was so true in my head that I didn't want to be anymore. And some of you guys know what that's like. So when I see Elijah in this cave, curled up in a ball, saying, I'm alone, I'm done, I failed, I don't see Elijah, I see me. I see me. And after this happens, a lot of people say that Elijah didn't learn his lesson and God punishes him. That's how some people translate what's about to happen, because right after he hears this gentle whisper, he repeats the same refrain that is living rent-free in his mind. I'm alone, I failed, I'm done. Even after the gentle whisper, even after the big God moment. Have you ever woken up and your parents are still divorced? Have you ever woken up and you still look in the mirror and hate yourself? Have you ever woken up and you still have to face your abuser? Like, things don't always change in the big God moments. Like, things don't always change, but there is hope, because in this moment, God sends him to Elisha. And Elisha would be the next prophet. And people look at that and they're like, God's telling him that, oh, you can't keep up. Like, you didn't accomplish your mission. You couldn't get over that thing, so I'm going to take that away from you and give it to Elisha. And that's how people perceive that. That's not what I see. I don't see that at all. I see that God is faithful and that God answered him. He was saying, I'm alone. He said, here's Elisha. I was saying, I'm done, and God said, I'm not done with you. Like, his answer to his brokenness and to him believing the lie was, I'm not done with you. Just because we can't believe it doesn't mean he won't do it. We say believe it and receive it. He says, even when you can't believe it. I'm so grateful for this. Even when you cannot believe it, doesn't mean he won't do it. He is faithful. Sometimes what changes us and what transforms us is not that we change in these big God moments. That's not always what changes us, but it's God's faithfulness to us. When those big moments don't change me, he is still faithful. And you can go to school next week, and you can go back to your home, and you can go back to that boyfriend or that girlfriend or that situation, and you can make the same mistakes, and God's like, I'm not finished with you. I'm not done with you. And some of you, you're going to walk out of here, and you're like, yes, God is calling me. God has got me. I'm going to go do this. And then you get disappointed. And then you reality check. Life happens, and you don't wake up on time, and you don't do the thing on time, and you don't meet the goals, and you don't do that stuff. Guess what? God isn't finished yet. God isn't finished yet. And what Elijah couldn't see right here was the whole story. Because not only would Elijah not die, this all started because Jezebel told him, I'm going to kill you in 24 hours. He thinks he's going to die. That was a lie, and he didn't know it at that time. But Elijah is one of the few people in the entire Bible who never dies. What? That's crazy. He never dies. He actually ascends to heaven. So God took this lie, and it was so infinitely far from the truth about God, what God was going to do in Elijah's life. He lived a full life, and he ascended to heaven, and when he was gone, Elisha would say, Father, Father. So he took Elijah, and he made so much out of him because of God's faithfulness, not yours. And the temptation is for you to get it together. I'm not saying don't do anything. I'm saying put one foot in front of the other. I'm saying just don't give up. I'm saying just keep going because there's more. There's more to the story. That was God's answer. When Elijah, after every moment and every whisper, he still couldn't accept who God said he was. But God still did what he does best. And he takes us in our brokenness. That's the gospel, you guys. The gospel is that you can't, God can. The gospel is that in my brokenness, he chose me. In your very, very worst moment, in your biggest failure, in the moments you don't want to tell anybody about, that's when God said your name. He said, I want you. So don't get it confused walking out of here thinking, I'm going to do the things, and then God will love me. He loves you now. He loves you now. If you hear nothing, he loves you now. Just because it's loud doesn't mean it's true. And I hope you hear that, because there's lies living in your head, and they're loud. They're not true. And so I want to give us a moment, and I just want to pray for us. So if you could close your eyes really quickly, no one looking around. And I just want to pray. I'm going to pray for all of us because we all have lies. But I want you to raise your hand in here, and I'm going to pray for you. If you are like, those lies are weighing you down right now. Like, if those lies are like heavy, and you're believing things that aren't true about yourself, and this is just resonating with you, go ahead and put your hand up right now. I can see you. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm going to pray for you. Keep it up. Keep it up. Sometimes it's not a step, it's just a raised hand. Sometimes it's just a raised hand. Lord, I thank you so much for every person in this room, but the hands that are raised. Sometimes we don't have what it takes, and you know it best. But God, you see these hands right now. You know their stories. You know the lies. God, will you speak truth? God, your gentle whisper, will you speak truth and give them just enough strength, just enough grace to keep going? God, I pray that right now, whatever that lie is, that they would hear your gentle whisper in their heart saying, that's not what I say about you. It doesn't matter what they say about you. It doesn't matter what your parents say about you. It doesn't matter. That's not what I say about you. God, I pray. I thank you. I thank you for your faithfulness, and I pray that they would hear your whisper tonight. Amen.